to live on minimum wage. And so there she is. Here are two young black women who are talking about when is it okay to riot. And I thought this was interesting because people riot. They have people riot over pumpkins. They riot when CEOs get fired. They riot for all these crazy things. But at the bottom it says when young black children get killed, we're not supposed to riot. All right, marginalized. It's, and then this is back in the day. Back in the day, that our mothers and brothers were marching for equal rights, right? Equal integrated schools. They wanted to do away with segregation. So marginalization has been around since forever. As long as there are people, we will find somebody to discriminate against, right? And if the person engages in a profession like Rahab that we just don't agree with, we tell ourselves it's okay. Mm-hmm. We tell ourselves it's okay. So now I'm gonna try to be like really fancy, and I'm going to, well, first I gotta figure out what I'm doing. Oh, my pen's not working.
She tried to be fancy.
I don't know how to be fancy. Here we go. Oh, wow. It worked last night. Reverend Brown, do you know how to do this? There it is. So I want us to just watch this and let's discuss it afterwards. Let's see, is it gonna come up?
In D.C., a collective of sex workers, organizers, and allies are working to decriminalize sex work, a move that experts say would drastically reduce harm and improve the lives of those in the sex trade.
It's not.
When covering issues that affect sex workers and the marginalized members of our communities, the media must listen to those who speak from experience.
In DC, we're fighting for the decriminalization of sex work because what it does is it removes the criminal penalties associated with trading sex. We focus on decriminalization.
Can you all hear that?
Because in general, we recognize that criminalization and policing, period, is harmful, very, very, very harmful to our communities.
Some people choose to do sex work and enjoy what they do. Some have no other option and turn to sex work for survival. Others are using sex work to transition into traditional work. Regardless of the circumstances that brought them to the sex trade, everyone deserves to feel safe in their work.
A lot of people have sex. And there's a certain, like, if people want to pay for sex, like, why not? A lot of people enter sex work because they need money. Assuming that everyone is, like, coerced clouds the, like, real obstacles that survival sex workers have faced and why they are pushing the sex work. And if our goals are to make our communities safer and more just for everyone, we have to understand where everyone's coming from. And we have to take this nuanced approach.
This nuanced approach requires recognizing that especially for Black and brown trans women, sex work is often the only option.
48% of DC business owners are going to hire a cisgender woman, period.
Black and brown people, as well as queer, trans, gender non-conforming people, are often marginalized when trying to access employment, healthcare, housing.
It doesn't matter.
This might not be that great, but I want you all to see this, because there's a woman coming up
qualified
that's
to do a job.
I was never given a chance, even from the beginning. I was never given a chance because when I, as a Black trans
productive and seek employment and stuff like that, then a lot of times people will discriminate us and not want to give us a chance.
Most transgenders want. We want to go to college. We want the same opportunities as our cis counterparts get.
The average life expectancy for a black trans woman in America is 35 years old. Black trans women experience violence from the police and the community at large at alarming rates.
I was stabbed over 48 times in Southeast DC. I'm constantly looking back.
Criminalizing sex work increases violence against sex workers and particularly increases police violence against sex workers. Sexual assault is the second most common form of police brutality.
There was a national transgender survey that said that 9 out of 10 trans people reported having experienced police brutality and harassment. Police officers target people who are in the sex trade.
A percentage of policemen or the people that are out there locking us up use us. Now look at that.
I've been picked up by a police officer before, and I've been told that, you know, if you give me this or you're going to jail.
Police officers argue that they have the right to have sex with sex workers as evidence of a crime. So they sexually assault sex workers in order to arrest them.
So I had been raped, but never did I go and tell a police officer that I was raped because of the simple fact that it was a trick that raped me.
When sex workers are criminalized, they are unable to report abuses because they remain at risk of arrest. And when sex workers experience violence at the hands of their clients, they have nowhere to turn. Criminalization reinforces the barriers already in place for many black and brown women.
The problems in my life that led up to my criminal history all started because I had no other choice but to go out here and prostitute. And you lock a person up and you let them out back out to the street, they back to point A. So now where do they go? They turn back to those closed doors, go back to those streets.
If you're already living from pillar to post, or you're living in a hotel room, you lose everything.
When you decriminalize, you need to take away the criminal penalties that came because of sex work. It keeps people from transitioning from the sex industry to a traditional job.
You make me a criminal for survival. And then now that I'm a criminal, I can't get a job. But in the first place, I couldn't get a job because I was me.
The system has set them up to fail. This includes those who are trafficked. Trafficking victims are more often than not marginalized people.
It's usually foster youth who's experiencing homelessness. It's usually youth who have been kicked out by their families because of rejection over their queer or trans identities, or kids who have experienced violence in the home, either sexual abuse or physical abuse by parents or caregivers. So that was actually my experience when I was 15. I was on the street, and the only people who were going to take me in were people who wanted to be men who wanted to have sex with me. The problem was homelessness. The problem is vulnerability, but nobody wants to talk about that or talk about solutions to that problem. It's always like, well, let's rescue trafficking victims with no conversation about what happens next.
And because consenting sex workers are criminalized, they do not feel safe to guide trafficking victims to safety.
If we change the system from the current way it is and decriminalize, we'll be better suited to help to guide the police and whatever other court agencies need it be to help to transition from being trafficked into whatever position they choose to be.
Sex workers are the ones who are most likely to be trafficked and therefore most likely to know who in the sex trade doesn't want to be there and then could be a resource.
In 2003, New Zealand fully decriminalized sex work. The law was written in collaboration with sex workers and advocates. Sex workers know that legalization creates a two-tiered system where only a privileged class is able to afford to legally participate in sex work. Under decriminalization, sex workers are allowed accountable bosses, collective working, and workers' rights. They can refuse a client at any time and don't fear retaliation from abusive law enforcement officials.
Legalization is a completely different thing and could actually be harmful for the sex workers at the margins. So particularly people experiencing homelessness wouldn't be able to meet the regulations or meet any requirements set by regulations.
It's important not to erase the experiences of those doing sex work simply because they enjoy what they do. Those folks are deserving of the same protections.
It's just like saying if I'm a good nigga, you know, and I'm at home, I meet all the time, but that's just my hobby. But then the next person that might be
it's just the dirtiest thing, but excuse me, how did you all get here?
Until oppressive systems are abolished, people, particularly trans women of color, will need sex work to survive. Until at-risk youth are provided with resources that keep them off of the streets, they'll be at risk of being trafficked. And as long as humanity exists, there will be a demand for sex, and some people will choose to do sex work because they enjoy it. This is the reality, and criminalizing sex workers causes harm to everyone involved in the trading of sex, no matter their circumstances. The media must recognize the nuances of the issue, listen to sex workers, and report the facts about the dangers of criminalizing our communities.
I think that the media should definitely spotlight it. Nobody knows like a person knows from experience.
There's literally no way to know why people are doing what they do or what we can do to better support people and make everyone feel safe unless we talk to people who are experiencing it.
Start by framing the problem as a problem of vulnerability, a problem of homelessness. I think the media can help by moving away from the perfect victim narrative.
The media doesn't have anybody to talk to but us.
Okay. So the reason for showing that is not whether, we're not going to talk about whether decriminalization should happen. I just want us to understand that people are suffering. And we look at them in a certain way and draw a conclusion about them that is not okay. And what do we do about that? Something's going on here. Of course it's not. So you saw the video. What'd you think?
I think they made a lot of valid points. I think, like she said, the vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
stuck out to me, especially with trafficking.
And you notice the traffic, people who are trafficked, and everybody knows what that is, right? When people are stolen and sold into sex work, they're lumped in with other sex workers. They're some of them are taken to other countries, but a lot of them are right here.
Right here.
They'll pick them up in D.C. and take them to Washington State. Pick them up in California and bring them to D.C.
Yeah. DC and Montgomery County, I think it's Montgomery County, they got one of the largest population of it.
I have no question. I don't know why it's happening. But anyway, so we have, and as you watch the women, and if we're honest with ourselves, what were some of the thoughts you had?
I think with the first part, like here, and it was saying where you're working but you at minimum wage, do you go, you make a choice whether you go out to be a street person or do you try to make ends meet,
It's a survival.
Yeah.
I mean, for some of them, it's survival.
So I'm gonna put it out there. Some of you, when you heard some of the women saying, we like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We like our job.
Mm-hmm.
And why should we be taken advantage of, be beaten up? Now, once again, what do we do as a Christian church? Because the reality of it is when you're out there and you're surviving, you make it work. You make it work. There are some people, if you talk to them, they'll say, I love to steal. They started out making it work, trying to survive. And then they felt very good at it.
It became a skill.
It became a skill. And when people cannot be famous, they will be infamous.
Sure.
It's the truth. Positive attention will make it work. And will turn our negative behavior that's getting us attention into the positive that we've been looking for our whole lives. And so you look at this and you say, well, this is what we're dealing with today. This is the population we're dealing with today. These are not Rahabs that own a business.
Right.
With a little house in the wall. These are Rahabs that are on the street trying to find a way. The woman got stabbed 48 times and she's still
It's still on the street. You know, but she, like she said, you know, one of them said, this is our job, but then you make me a criminal, and then you get mad at me because I can't go get a job, but you made me a criminal.
So many people are promoting decriminalization of sex work because of all the horrors that the women endure. No one is saying anything other than nobody should be treated the way these women are treated. And as you heard, they're offended against more often by corrupt police officers. I put corrupt in front of that because it's not all police officers. It's corrupt police officers. And so you look at that and you think, and there are people who say they did it to themselves. They don't deserve our pity, our compassion. And I would ask the question, then who does? Who does deserve our pity and our compassion? By the standards of some of the way churches function today, who deserves our pity and our compassion? Who's left? That it's okay to minister to. Who's left? What are the acceptable mission endeavors? What do you guys think?
I mean, church folk, they had their way. It'd just be keep ministering to the people inside, but you're not. That's not getting you nowhere. Our job is to minister to the people outside.
Okay. So, our job is to minister actually to everybody.
True. But you know, some of y'all church folk. Some of y'all church people, I promise you. We is having the most technical difficulties
I'm
this
telling you.
evening. This is nobody but Satan.
Let it wait. Who is acceptable? Who do we talk to? How many of these women, and this is just women, but if we're for real, there are boys, young boys out there, and they're being trafficked as well, as young as before they hit double digits in age. Okay, and so what do we do now? So think about this. So you're trafficked, and you're gone for years because that is the story for some, and then you're brought back, but this is all you know. This is what you've been taught. before you can even figure out what relationship is and all that. And this is how you made money.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to take care of you? So when you think about that, it almost appears like Rahab had it a little bit better. But we don't know what her start was, do we?
No.
We don't know what her start was. The sad part is that it's been going on since the dawn of time, and somebody's paying.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the kicker. When you read about the spies that spent time with Rahab, it says you don't know if they went for lodging, if they went for information, because they were spies trying to scout out, how, the people would come and take the land. Or were they there for sex?
Right.
All we know, they stayed.
All we know is they stayed. Right? So this is the woman we have. I don't know what's going to happen here. This is the woman we have. And I can see my slides. So I'm just going to keep going. No, I can't. Someone read Joshua chapter 2 for me.
Okay. All of it?
Yes.
Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent out from Shittim 2 men as spies. Go, look over the land, check out Jericho. They left and arrived at the house of a harlot named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, "We've just learned that men arrived tonight to spy out the land. They're from the people of Israel." The king of Jericho sent word to Rahab, "Bring out the men who came to you to stay the night in your house. They're spies. They've come to spy out the whole country." The woman had taken the 2 men, and hidden them. She said, "Yes, 2 men did come to me, but I didn't know where they'd come from. At dark, the gate was about to be shut. The men left, but I have no idea where they went. Hurry up, chase them. You can still catch them." She had actually taken them up on the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax that were spread out for her on the roof. So the men set chase down the Jordan Road toward the fords. As soon as they were gone, the gate was shut. Before the spies were down for the night, the woman came up to them on the roof and said, "I know that God has given you the land. We're all afraid. Everyone in the country feels hopeless. We heard how God dried up the waters of the Red Sea before you when you left Egypt, and what he did to the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you put under a holy curse and destroyed. We heard it, and our hearts sank. We all had the wind knocked out of us. And all because of you, you and God, your God, God of the heavens above and God of the earth below. Now promise me by God, I show you mercy. Now show my family mercy, and give me some tangible proof, a guarantee of life for my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, everyone connected with my family. Save our souls from death, our lives for yours," said the men. "But don't tell anyone our business. When God turned this land over to us, we'll do right by you in loyal mercy." She lowered them down out a window with a rope because her house was on the city walls to the outside. She told them, "Run for the hills so your pursuers won't find you. Hide out for 3 days and give your pursuers time to return. Then get on your way." The men told her, "In order to keep this oath you made us swear, here is what you must do. Hang this red rope out the window for which you let us down, and gather your entire family with you in your house. Father, mother, brothers, and sisters. Anyone who goes out the doors of your house into the streets and is killed, it's his own fault. We aren't responsible. But for everyone within the house, we take full responsibility. If anyone lays a hand on one of them, it's our fault. But if you tell anyone of our business, here, the oath you made us swear is canceled. We're no longer responsible." She said, "If that's what you say, that's the way it is," and sent them off. They left and she hung the red rope out the window. They headed for the hills and stayed there for 3 days until the pursuers had returned. The pursuers had looked high and low but found nothing. The men headed back. They came down out of the hills, crossed the river, and returned to Joshua, son of Nun, and reported all their experiences. They told Joshua, "Yes, God has given the whole country to us. Everybody there is in a state of panic because of us."
Amen. Amen. So she was in a place, but one thing about Rahab, she told them about their God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She was a marginalized person who had no, there was no reason for her to even know
No.
about God.
Right.
She was a Canaanite. And a Canaanite was actually the target of God's removal.
Mhm.
But she reminded them that your God is pretty much going to do exactly what God said he's going to do. And dread be to those who go against him.
Mhm.
So there's a lot going on here with Rahab. She's a prostitute.
Mhm.
She's a prostitute of prostitutes. Right?
Mhm.
But you also find out she's somebody who loves her family and just trying to keep her family
Mhm.
together. You find out that she has a sense of values, and that is to honor this God she's heard about. See, Rahab could have only heard about God through the travelers that came by her way.
Mhm.
She could have only heard about God when people were talking possibly outside of her window. This God who had parted the sea so that his people could cross on dry land. This God who had declared that they would have the promised land.
Mhm.
And she was already there.
Mm-hmm.
And this God brought these two spies to this woman. This woman. Right? In the condition she was in. And she rose to the occasion. She rose to the occasion. So let's think about that for a minute. Let's think about that for a minute. What is the beauty of this account for you thus far?
I just thought that it was brave of her. Because if you think about it, she lied to the people that came to the door.
The king's people.
Yeah.
This wasn't just anybody. This just wasn't some dudes,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Like she put herself at risk. She put herself in danger. You know, if they would have found them, Lord only knows what could have happened to her. And she was already at the bottom anyway.
Mhm.
So I thought she was brave. She's one of my favorite women in the Bible. I thought she was brave.
But did she also trust the God that she had heard about?
It sounds like she did.
Yeah.
What if Rahab said, this God
Mhm.
has provided for me an opportunity, right?
Mhm.
And when she hid the men, this is ingenuity. She hid them under flax on top of her roof. Well, what they did in that time is they took flax, and then to dry it out, they put it on top of the roof in stagnant water. Look, that's the face. You see Sister Hipkins' face? In stagnant water. So what do we know about stagnant water? It don't smell good at all. And it's actually the slime that stagnant water makes that actually protected the flax.
Give out face.
Look, yeah, look. The coating. Now we make that face, but how many things get fermented and we eat it?
That's not true.
Think about it. But here's where these two men hid. Away from the king, away from the king's soldiers. The king that she did not tell the truth to.
Right.
Right? it would appear to some that this is a woman breaking all kind of commandments.
She just lied. They're not here. Yes, they is.
But yet, she was part of the plan. And truly, without Rahab, it might not have been successful.
Right.
It might not have been successful. So the dilemma of the Rahab story is first her ethnicity. She's a Canaanite.
Mm-hmm.
She's supposed to be one of the ones killed.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to go in and wipe out the whole land. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are two words that are interesting to me, because when you know Hebrew, you know that Hebrew really has no vowels. It only has consonants. Right? And so what Rahab asked of the spies in saying, save my family for yours, is called a hesed, a special benevolence. Right? But what the spies and the Israelites were supposed to do to the Canaanites is called a harem. Wipe them out. It's the same triliteral root. And that's what it's called in Hebrew, a triliteral root. 3 consonants that come together.
Okay.
Right? And so the one says blessing, the other one says you're gone as a people. That just made me think about how quickly things can be interchanged. First to mean one thing and then to be another. And if you don't know truly what's going on, you might get it confused. She had to know a little bit about them to know what a special blessing was. Right? Right? And so her profession, that's a dilemma, isn't it? And they had to go to her place in order to be protected. This isn't an account where God said there's going to be a prostitute and you go meet her. We know God to do that, right? He did it for Jesus. There's going to be a donkey. Right? He told Elijah there's going to be a woman. But he didn't tell the spies there's going to be a prostitute. So go find her so she can bless you. By hiding you. Anyway. Another dilemma is she's absolutely bearing false witness.
She definitely was.
She was just... There's no way to make that pretty.
She's like, they not here.
They ain't here. They already left. 3 days journey.
You're right. It's a lie.
Sent them on a wild goose chase. Right?
And then she told the spies how to do it.
Uh-huh.
So y'all gotta wait 3 days.
She was, all the strategy. Right? Her standing in society. The lowest of the low. All right? Can you think of anything else that makes a dilemma for Rahab?
She was a woman.
She had to keep the promise that she made.
Say it again?
She had to keep the promise that she made to them, or otherwise it would come back on her.
And they had to keep the promise to her.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people, when they preach this story, they want to make a connection to the red string or the red scarf, right? With it being crimson. Not to burst anybody's bubble. I guess we can try to get to Jesus with it, but really, red was just a common color that they dyed things because it's the color of many fruits. And then back in the day, they dyed their clothes with fruits and vegetables. Yeah. So, not taking away from anybody that thought something else, but if we just get down to basics, most things were red. Probably because of beet juice, You know, that's just how you dyed your clothes. Berries, any kind of berries would dye your clothes. Today, you get blueberry stains on your clothes, they're not coming out. That is a permanent dye, right? So these are the things the people of the land use to dye their clothes. They stomp on some grapes, got a new outfit, right?
We was on his shots and stuff on the grapes.
So, the spies kept their part of the bargain. And we know what comes next. The people come for the 7 priests, 7 trumpets, a whole series of 7s, marching around the wall 7 times, for the walls to come down in Jericho. But Rahab and her family were spared. And as a result, she became the mother of Boaz. And everybody remember who Boaz is?
Oh, no.
Boaz?
You know who Boaz is. Everybody wanted Boaz.
Everybody wanted Boaz? I don't know who the first person who preached that.
Oh,
But,
gosh.
oh, gosh.
Good gosh.
Where is my Boaz?
They got a whole bunch of books about that.
Yeah. And then became the grandmother of Obed, the great grandmother of Jesse. Everybody remember who Jesse is? The great great grandmother of King David. This woman of low standing, but because of her faith of a God that she knew nothing about, truly. You know, a lot of times we say, well, people don't know God, how are they going to believe? Somebody came by where she worked and couldn't stop talking about the Lord. Somebody came and just was telling the whole community about the things God had done. Somebody came and made such an impression on this woman of low means and low standing that it changed her life to the point that when these men came and said who they were, and she knew they belonged to God, she put her life on the line. She put her life on the line. And I believe we can tell the story with like that today. We don't have to wait for people to get their lives in order. We don't have to wait for the marginalized to become part of the majority. We don't have to wait. If we will tell the story and not be worried about where they've been and why they're doing it and who they're doing it with. Art, for us, the evangelism, the outreach, the testimony is not about decriminalization or criminalization. It's about human beings and telling them the story that results in a hope that takes them from a place of desperation to a place of deliverance. This is what we're talking about today. But we have to be willing. I know there's somebody who probably said, Reverend B showing the church all about sex workers. Well, this woman. But shouldn't we have the conversation? Why do we skirt all around it?
But it's there.
It's there.
And it's biblical. I think that's the thing that gets me. We don't want to talk about stuff, but it's in the Bible. We don't want to talk about rape. We don't want to talk about incest, but it's all throughout the Old Testament. It's just there.
It's just there. It's just there. And we've stopped talking about it, and it's running rampant. So it's not working. It's not working. There are things that as a body of Christ that we're supposed to take up the mantle. The woman at the well, remember what she said? I met a man who knew all about me. If Jesus didn't shy away from it, and he's our example of how to spread the good news, the gospel, what are we scared of? If a Rahab, I read a story, and it was very telling about a gentleman who went to the Middle East on a mission trip, and he met a woman named Rahab, but she didn't know the Lord. So he let her know who her namesake was.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got done, she wanted to know more about the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
He told a prostitute about a prostitute, and she got saved. How about that? How about that? Sometimes we miss the point trying to clean up the story. Sometimes we really miss the opportunity to be a part of a miracle and a blessing because we're too worried about, right, that the person just ain't quite clean enough, pure enough, holy enough. When that's not our piece, we grow in holiness. It is a pursuit. So like I said earlier, this ain't about. Actually, the truth be told, on November 17th of this year, they voted not to decriminalize sex work. They voted right in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to decriminalize it. But what it did do was it brought attention to the need for safety
Mm-hmm.
and to programming to help women who are out there just surviving.
Right.
And the truth of the matter is that, and one woman said it, she's like, how are we going to help those that are being trafficked if we're going to end up in jail for bringing them for help? Because that's what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of this show called Pose?
No.
If you have Netflix, check it out. So y'all ever seen Pose? I know you've seen Pose. You seen Pose? So it's a show. It's about transgender. It's about the transgender community, and it's about this homeless boy. His father found out he was gay, beat him, and he put him out the house. And it's basically about how it's set back in the 90s, and how these kids would be homeless and have nowhere to go, and they're transgender, but the older transgender women would take them in, and they would, they're called the houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're taking them into the house, and they build a family and a community because it was nowhere for them to go. They were getting beat, killed on the streets and stuff. And a big part of the show is that they were being raped and brutalized by the police. And of course, it focuses on the HIV epidemic as well. But I learned from that show, and when I watched it, it really made me want to go and do research on it but that is a thing, where that you do get older people who will take them in, trying to protect them, trying to shield them from society.
The horror of society.
The horror, because
Yeah.
it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bad. And it's a really, really good show. If you ever get a chance to check it out,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really, really, really good show.
And thank you for sharing that, because what it's saying is that the world is doing a better job of putting the stories out
there
than the church is.
Yeah.
But they're sensationalizing it to a certain extent, and that's not okay either. So we have to come to grips with the fact that there are some very hard stories out here, and people are in conditions due to things that were done so long ago, which is their living truth. Their living truth. And to say it doesn't matter goes against everything we're supposed to be as Christians. Their lives matter. And we have to hear it to understand the Jesus moment in it. If we're just trying to sprinkle a little Jesus on something that's burnt or just decayed, that does nothing. That does nothing for anybody's condition. Platitudes, verses that have no meaning.
No meaning.
But if we come and we join with them and sup with them and talk with them, we'll understand more how God has saved them for a moment that we could meet with them and tell them all about the Lord. But we have to be willing. We have to be willing to meet them where they are. We have to be willing to take the standards that we've become accustomed to and throw them out the window. And if we would just do that, we might be a part of miracles.
And I got the opportunity to speak to a former sex trafficking victim at Turner Memorial. She came and she did a workshop, and she said when we was talking private, she said to me, when she was in that world, her pimp would take her to church, but they would be dressed like they were on the street, and she said you would not believe how many. She know better. Why she coming here looking like that? And she was like, whole time I'm a victim, silently screaming for somebody to help me. She was like, but the church judged her. She was like, and I had no choice but to go back out that door.
Right back out.
With that man. And she was like, I couldn't say anything. She said, but silently, I'm screaming, help me. And she said, all it would have took is for somebody to just talk to her.
Just step out and ask the question.
And she said to me, she's like, that was in the church. She said that was in the church. She said, but I got so many looks because of what I had on. And people just outright talking about her. Somebody, she probably just came in off the corner. And all I could say was like, wow.
Instead of rejoicing that she was sitting in the pew.
She was sitting in the pew.
We don't know, and Pastor has said it often, we don't know when to celebrate. We so busy looking at what is not right. We do not celebrate when they come through the door. We do not celebrate the opportunity for our eyes to meet and to have a conversation, because we're missing it. And people are dying. People are dying. And this is the thing that really gets me at my heart. The women we saw on the video look out for each other.
Yeah.
Like you said, they build families. They're taking the battered, the broken, and saying, come to me. I'm battered and broken, just like you. So come on. Just come on. And they risk their lives for each other. We don't. And we need to start. Jesus came and gave his life for us. And the expectation is we're supposed to give our life for others. Not this much of it. Not only on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. But we get so worried about thinking we're going to lose something that we just step back. We just step back. And we have to know that anything we lose, either time was up on it, or God said, you didn't need it no way. It was a distraction. God says, I am a jealous God. There will be no other gods before me. That means your car, your job, your significant other, your children, the red dress, the purple dress, the blue dress, the black shoes. No. And we'll say, oh, well, I wouldn't make that my God. I wouldn't. But how much time would you spend looking for a thing that means something to you? And then how much time do you spend looking for a person that means something to God? Does anybody have anything they want to add to this? I love Rahab.
I do. She's always been one of my favorites. But she was just, I just thought she was brave. She was bold. She was brave. She did what she had to do.
And she had something to offer God. She had something to offer God.
In spite of who she was.
In spite of who she was.
Yeah.
And her life was forever changed. Well, I thank everybody for joining us tonight. Barring technical difficulties,
I know we're gonna be on it next time.
next time we're gonna be on it.